watching UNO with Dr. Ambrish Saxena.
Hello students, today is Thursday 28th of November 2019. Parliament witnessed unruly scenes on the first 2 days in this week on the issue of overnight developments in Maharashtra on 23rd of November. Otherwise also you would have seen that disruptions are happening in Parliament on some or the other issue. Mostly these disruptions are caused because of the opposition raising an issue, but sometimes even the ruling party members come in conflict with the opposition members, which further result in pandemonium. Though it is normally believed that disruptions are always to the advantage of the opposition because this way they succeed in raising a point which they feel is important and the government is not ready to listen to them or the presiding officer is not giving them an opportunity to speak. But this is not always true. So in today's edition, we will try to unfold these disruptions of parliament and what are the real effects and who are actually to be benefited or to be at advantage or to be at a disadvantage. So to understand this whole issue of disruption, we have to first look into the proceedings of parliament. In each of the house of parliament, the day is broadly divided into three areas. The first one is the 0 hour, which happened from 11 a.m. to 12 noon. This is followed by the question hour, which is from 12 to 1 p.m. and then there is a lunch break 1 to 2 and then there is the regular business hour, regular working hours from 2 to 6. Now firstly to talk about the 0 hour. 0 hour is the time where MPs get an opportunity to raise a point of public importance or any issue which is of contemporary value and then the government is obliged to give its reply on that issue. Normally the practice is that if for any reason that notice which the MP has given is not taken up that day, then it is shifted to the next day. But only this week the chairman of the Rajya Sabha, Venkaiah Naidu, has said that if for any reason for disruption or for the adjournment of the house the notice is not taken up the same day, then it will not be shifted to the next day. This means that the opposition members will be at a disadvantage because they will lose the opportunity to grill the government and to have some clarification on some issue from the government. Now the next is the question hour. Question hour is again for 1 hour and there are two types of questions which are asked. These include start questions as well as unstarred questions. So start questions are comparatively more important because any question which has been asked by an MP, the concerned minister has to come physically on the floor of the house to answer that question. Though there is a limitation in Lok Sabha, 20 questions can be asked and then in Rajya Sabha only 15 questions can be asked. So there are already a limited time available and if there are disruptions then obviously there is little possibility for the members to grill the government. And if we look into the last Lok Sabha statistics in 16th Lok Sabha, only 18% questions could be taken up in the whole of the session. Then there are also the unstarred questions. Unstarred questions are basically the questions where the government gives the written reply. In such cases, no supplementary questions can be asked, whereas in the case of the starred questions, 2 supplementary questions can be asked. So the grilling of the government or the minister in the house is not possible in the case of the starred questions. And in any case, in the cases of starred and unstarred questions, if little time is available, then the government is at a advantage. After 2 p.m. the regular business hour of the house start and the main business which is taken up is that of the passing of the legislation. So, if there are disruptions, the whole planning of the government will be disturbed and the legislations will not be possible to be passed by parliament. Obviously, this is to everybody's disadvantage, but then if the government has comfortable numbers, like if we look the example of the present Lok Sabha, where the government has comfortable majority, so bills can be passed even in a case wherein there are disruptions in the house. But in Rajya Sabha, this may not be the real case, because if disruption happen, then the bills can be held up in Rajya Sabha. So, the disruptions are neither to the advantage of the government nor to the advantage of the opposition parties. They are to the disadvantage to the whole of the country and to the disadvantage of democracy. Now, moving on to another story, the district council elections happened recently in Hong Kong, and the pro-democracy camp has registered a landslide victory. Nobody could imagine this kind of victory for them, neither the Chinese government nor the Hong Kong administration, and they are in a shock. In fact, they were believing that there were a silent majority which were not happy with the recent protest, and they were going to vote for the Hong Kong administration, but that actually did not happen. Hong Kong is a special administrative region. It was given by China to Britain on a 99-year lease in the year 1898. Britain handed over it to China in 1997, but with the condition that there will be a principle of one country, two systems. So, accordingly, Hong Kong has its own political system, its own economic system. Now, talking about protest started in Hong Kong against a controversial extradition law. So, people started protesting on the streets. On the weekend, this continued for 20 weeks. Finally, Hong Kong administration yielded to the pressure and they decided to withdraw this controversial bill. But even after that, the protest did not stop, because protesters were demanding a general amnesty to all arrested protesters and also institution of an inquiry to investigate the cases of police brutality. Now, after this, the Chinese authorities sent the army from China, and there were every attempt made to crush this movement. And meanwhile, these district council elections happened, and the results have stunned everybody. The Hong Kong administration, the chief executive Carrie Lam, has accepted now that people were unhappy on the governance deficiency, and also they were unhappy the way the administration handled the current unstable environment. The Chinese authority are in fact in a shock, and they have not given any official reaction to the results. But then the Chinese media has been continuously for the last 3-4 days has been downplaying the results. These elections happened in 18 district councils, and 4.1 million voters voted in this election. There were 1098 candidates in the fray, and the post on which the election happened were 452, and 71% polling happened. The district councils have very limited powers. They handle only the transport and the public facilities. But these elections are considered important because very shortly the legislative council elections are to take place. And there is a practice that the councillors who are elected in these elections, they are given priority, while candidates for the legislative councils are to be finalized. So, the election and the results in Hong Kong reflect the aspirations of the people for democracy in Hong Kong. Let us hope that China will understand this, will realize the people's sentiment, and will give the democracy a chance. This is all in today's edition.